you will bring this lawlessness to your city, to your town, to your suburb.
After 240 years of patriotic service delivering the mail, how can one person screw this up in just a few weeks? So, Mr. DeJoy, as the Postmaster for the United States of America for the last 70 days, did you know that the Postal Service has never allowed itself to be in the situation that it's in today? Throughout the Postal Service history, there's been a tradition of reliable delivery from the very beginning. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 7 of the United States Constitution. During the First World War and the Spanish flu influenza of 1918, through the Great Depression, millions of people out of work, 1,000 bank failures, the mail was delivered on time. Even during the Second World War, with the threat of Nazi U-boats, international mail was delivered on time. Just so happens I was elected on 9/11, the day of the terrorist attacks on our nation, a god-awful day. Some people forget, in the days after 9/11, we had direct anthrax attacks on the United States Postal Service. We lost two brave postal workers, Joseph Cursine and Tom Morris, down at the Brentwood facility here in D.C. from anthrax inhalation. But for the good of the country, the postal unions continued to send their members into the post office to do their job to keep the country running. So two weeks ago, after you'd been postmaster for just a few weeks, that all changed. In the middle of a pandemic that has killed 170,000 Americans, and on the eve of a national election, at a time when the CDC is advising people not to gather, limit outside contact, the Postal Service started removing 671 high-speed mail sorting machines across the country. You stopped the APWU from sorting the mail, and you stopped the national letter carriers and mail handlers from working overtime to deliver the mail. And for the first time in 240 years in our history of the United States Postal Service, you sent out a letter, embarrassingly, in July to 46 states that said the post office can't guarantee that we can deliver the mail in time for the elections in November. And we have reports from across the country, as you acknowledge, service has been delayed and the mail is piling up. You have ended a once proud tradition. Now, as a member of the Oversight Committee, we are the chief investigative committee in the Congress. We conduct oversight on every matter that impacts the American people, foreign and domestic. There are members on this committee who have been to Iraq and Afghanistan a couple dozen times. They've been to Yemen, Somalia, Gaza, you name it. They literally go to the ends of the earth to investigate matters that affect the American people, especially when it involves our sons and daughters in uniform. In this moment, it is our postal workers who happen to be our men and women in uniforms. They are on the front lines of this pandemic. Throughout this pandemic, they've risked their own health and safety to deliver, or tried to deliver, mail, medicines, and mail-in ballots to every American home and business 6 days a week. As a member of this August committee, I'm supposed to ask you a question. In my heart, I'm tempted to ask, after 240 years of patriotic service delivering the mail, how can one person screw this up in just a few weeks? Now, I understand you bring private sector expertise. I guess we couldn't find a government worker who could screw it up this fast. It would take them a while. The president is running this post office like a business, like he said. He's running it into the ground, as he has declared bankruptcy a few times on his own businesses. In an effort to apply the facts, the real facts, not the alternative facts, based on what you have actually done, one can only reach, as a fact finder, we can only reach two conclusions. One, either through gross incompetence, you have ended the 240-year history of delivering the mail reliably on time, or the second conclusion that we could gather is that you're doing this on purpose and that you're deliberately dismantling this once proud tradition.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman may answer his question.
My last question is this.
Thank you,
What
sir.
the heck are you doing? What the heck are you doing?
The gentleman's time has
That's my
expired.
question.
Thank you, sir.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman
First of
may
all,
answer.
I would like to agree with you on the heroic efforts of our 650,000 employees across the nation, and the history of the Postal Service for their the 250-year history of serving the American public. And I'm very
Will you put
proud-
the machines back?
I'm very proud to lead the organization. The rest of your accusations are actually
Will you put the high-speed
outrageous.
machines
No,
back?
I will not.
You will not.
Will not.
You will not. Well, there you go.
There I go. What?
There
Those
will-
machines,
Madam
those
Chair,
machines have been
let the
coming
witness
out.
answer the question, and
32,000
he has gone over
mail-out
time.
Order. The gentleman may answer the question without being interrupted. And
Every
the question is, will
accusation-
you put the machines back?
The answer is no, and every accusation you made, other than the truck, adhere to the truck schedule, is inaccurate and more misinformation for the American public.
You won't put the machines back, though. You took them out. They're high-speed
Madam
machines.
Chair,
Did not take-
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jordan is now recognized. Congressman Jordan, is he here?
No one will be safe in Biden's America.
It's a horror film, really.
You won't be safe in Joe Biden's America.
Your family will not be safe.
They want to steal your liberty, your freedom.
Nightmares are becoming real.
Joe Biden is not a savior of America's soul. He will be the destroyer of American greatness.
He's a Trojan horse with Bernie, AOC, Pelosi, Black Lives Matter, and his party's entire left wing.
Joe Biden is basically the Loch Ness Monster of the swamp.
They will force the choice between being obedient to God or to Caesar, because the radical left's God is government power.
They will demolish the suburbs, confiscate your guns, and appoint justices who will wipe away your Second Amendment and other constitutional freedoms.
They'll disarm you, empty the prisons, lock you in your home,
They want to control what you see and think.
and invite MS-13 to live next door. And the police aren't coming when you call, for there is no place to run.
They want to enslave you to the weak, dependent, liberal, victim ideology to the point that you will not recognize this country or yourself.
This misinformation system keeps people mentally enslaved to the ideas they deem correct.
The vengeful mob that seeks to destroy our way of life.
The forces of anarchy and communism.
Violent anarchists and agitators and criminals.
Poisoning our schools and burning our cities.
They would keep you locked in your house until you become dependent on the government for everything.
Joe Biden and the radical left are now coming for our freedom of speech.
Stripped of our religious freedoms,
The fabric of our nation is in peril.
Cops killed, children shot.
Abandoned buildings, liquor stores in every corner.
Anarchists, agitators, rioters, looters, and flag burners.
Mindlessly tear up American cities.
Working men and women of America will get crushed.
Our founding principles are under attack.
A radical socialist agenda.
we cannot fall into the left's trap.
For an obviously defective candidate, these continuous riots, you will bring this lawlessness to your city, to your town, to your suburb.
We've seen violence and chaos in the streets of our major cities.
Weak and dangerous past. Joe Biden let ISIS terrorists rampage across the Middle East.
He also supports deadly sanctuary cities that protect criminal aliens, late-term abortion of defenseless babies right up until the moment of birth.
The choice in this election is whether America remains America.
When I'm reelected, the best is yet to come.
Mr. DeJoy, the culture and ethos of the U.S. Postal Service is every piece, every day. I've been in briefings with Florida's local Postal Service employees who are telling me that since your arrival, this is no longer the mission of the USPS. Overtime to finish delivering mail is not allowed, and piles upon piles of backlogged mail are being left undelivered. Sorting machines are being sold for scrap or unplugged and roped off. My first question is it still the policy and goal of the USPS to deliver every piece every day, or have you eliminated or changed that in any way?
First of all, that is misrepresentation of any action that I have taken. But yes, the goal is to deliver every piece every day. And ma'am, we were not doing that before I got here. And my goal is to...
Well, it's gotten, reclaiming my time, it has clearly gotten worse since your arrival. We have piles upon piles of mail that, as a result of the changes that you've made, appear to have delayed the mail even further than Supposedly, they were delayed previously.
Change.
No.
The change I've made.
Well, the changes that you've made.
Change. I made one change.
Well, I'm sorry, you've made far more than one change.
That's not true.
Okay, reclaiming my time. You're not being honest with this committee.
That's not true. I am being honest.
I would ask that the chair add time back and direct the witness not to interrupt me.
Madam Chair.
Mr. DeJoy?
Let's allow the witness to answer the questions and the false accusations.
Reclaiming my time. I did not interrupt any other member while they were talking, and I expect not to be interrupted. The time is mine. Mr. DeJoy, you are not being honest with the committee about removing the sorting machines. We have been asking you for details for weeks, and you have been hiding them from us while removing them at a breakneck pace. On August 4th, your staff gave this committee a briefing on this issue, and all they told us was that you'd be moving machines around to where they were needed most. We have the slides from that briefing. There was no mention of taking any sorting machines offline. On August 11th, your general counsel responded to our requests for more information with no mention of taking any sorting machines offline. Your culture of misinformation has even trickled down to Florida Postal leadership. On August 14th, my office asked whether sorting machines were being removed at the Royal Palm facility, which covers all of South Florida, and were assured that capacity was actually being expanded. But it was only after I spoke with local postal workers that I was told about the FSS machine in Royal Palm, which had been shut down and roped off since July. Press outlets finally revealed the internal plan to remove more than 600-plus sorting machines. You were not transparent. We had to get it from news reports. I want to take this opportunity to enter into the record, Madam Chair, an August 18, 2020 email from USPS Director of Maintenance Operations, Kevin Couch. Madam Chair. The email reads, please message out to your respective maintenance managers tonight. They are not to reconnect, reinstall machines that have been previously been disconnected without approval from headquarters maintenance, no matter what direction they are getting from their plant manager. Mr. DeJoy, yes or no, and you've indicated in this committee hearing that it's not your job to decide about whether sorting machines are on or offline, but at the same time you told Mr. Khanna that you won't bring them online because they're not needed. So yes or no, have any plant managers requested mail sorting machines be reconnected?
First of all,
yes or no?
I disagree with the premise.
I'm not asking you anything other than reclaiming my time, Madam Chair.
Yeah,
yes or no?
Yes or no answer.
Yes or no? Have any plant managers across the country in the USPS requested mail sorting machines be reconnected?
How would I know that?
You're in charge. You don't know whether there are plant managers that have requested. Well, let me just assure you that there are plant managers. That was reported in the press in both Washington. There are plant managers in Texas and Washington, and I have articles that I can show you that have asked to have sorting machines reconnected and brought back online, and they've been too scared to come forward to say so. So you've indicated that it's local leadership. In this hearing, I heard you say it's not your job to decide whether sorting machines are brought online or not. Someone needs to mute, Madam Chair. Madam Chair,
please mute people that are listening. Please mute.
I need probably about additional 30 seconds from the interruptions added back onto my time, please. You have said in this hearing it's both not your job to make decisions about sorting machines, and at the same time, you've said that you're not going to bring them back online because they're not needed. It can't be both. So my local handlers who work with sorting machines regularly and this specific barcode sorter machine have assured me that it would not be difficult to plug it back in. How difficult would it be to reconnect machines that haven't already been destroyed? For example, on display, if we can bring that up on the screen, I was sent a photo from a processing and distribution center in Florida where the power cord is hanging from the ceiling and not plugged in. And my local handlers tell me that with sorting machines regularly, and that specific machine specifically, that it would not be difficult to plug back in. Do you believe that it is the local handler's job to decide whether they need a sorting machine, and will you give them the freedom to plug the machines back in and bring machines that haven't been taken apart back online in order to make sure we can get the mail out on time, which you acknowledge has gotten worse since your arrival?
The gentlewoman's time has expired, but the gentleman is requested to answer a question.
That was a long list of accusations.
No, I just want a simple answer to the question about whether you will give...
Well, it's my time now? Is it my time to
No, it's
answer?
always my time. And I'd like an answer to the question.
Her time has expired.
I'm
Madam
sorry.
Chairman.
I'd like an answer to the question whether or not you will
We have a
leave it...
management team that is responsible for making decisions as to what machines are used and not used.
But
okay?
those things are decided locally.
The
Will you
gentlewoman's
let them
time has
decide that
expired. The
locally?
gentlewoman's time has expired.
Yes or no? Will you let them decide that locally?
No.
Okay.
Congressman
then
Higgins, you are now
then you have not told
recognized.
us the truth in this hearing, and it is your
Time has
fault that
expired,
the mail
Madam
has
Chairman.
delayed.
Her time has
Your
expired.
fault.
Her time
On
has
you, and
expired.
you've acknowledged that.
Her time has
Yield back the
expired.
balance of my
We
Her
request
time has
a response
expired.
in writing.
Postmaster General, shortly after you took the office, I reached out to schedule an introductory call with no agenda, in particular just to share my experiences as a career postal employee to kind of welcome you to the seat. But my request was turned down. I was told you needed your time to get acquainted with the agency and that you did not have time to have that meeting. But I've seen since you've been in office, the time to get antiquated to make these really, really impactful decisions on delivery and processing of the mail, you are comfortable with doing so. I want to ask you, Mr. DeJoy, are you familiar with Chapter 1 of 39 U.S. States Code?
No, I'm not.
Okay. The United States, the code reads, the United States Postal Service shall be operated as a basic and fundamental service provided by the people, to the people by the government of the United States, authorized by the Constitution, created by act of Congress, and supported by the people. Mr. DeJoy, did you take an oath of office when you became the Postmaster General?
I did, ma'am.
I remember when I took my oath of office, when I was sworn in to be a employee of the Postal Service. And to just tell you my journey, because I'm sure you're familiar with some of the names, I started as a distribution clerk working Tour 1. Then I moved to being a letter carrier, then to being a acting supervisor, then a supervisor of delivery and collection. I served in HR, I served in safety and health, I served as an EO investigator. I had the entire state of Michigan in a district role of the women's program and for career counseling and development. And I ended my career after several task forces that I was put on to monitor and to track the mail before we made decisions like taking out equipment, density counts. I, as a supervisor of delivery, I know what it took to remove a post office box. It's called a collection box. It's not a blue box, it's a collection box. So I wanted to talk to you about, have you ever served as a letter carrier?
First off, ma'am, I'd like to congratulate you on your career path. And no, I have never served as a letter carrier.
So I did, sir. So the Postal Service is introducing a new initiative called Expedited to Street Afternoon Sortation, and it reduces the morning office time to allow carriers to leave for the street earlier, and then upon returning from the streets, the carriers are then to sort any undelivered mail for the next day. Are you aware what that initiative that you have rolled out, the impact it has on delivery, carrying?
The intent, that was a program that was on the shelf. The intent of that program is to adjust for, there's been a significant decline in mail, as you know, and to adjusted. That was worked out with union leadership to run a pilot. The pilot, I stopped the pilot when I stopped everything else. So the intent of it is to get the carriers out earlier so they can come back earlier. And that's basically in the day.
Well, Mr. DeJoy, I really stress that you do some deliberate work. Excuse me. Do some deliberate work to understand the impact that it has, because if a carrier does not come back, because this is the challenge that we have all the time. A carrier, if he has only one piece of advertisement, must stop at every home. So regardless of the volume, if you're making the same amount of stops, you're not going to shorten the time. And so when you do that, the carrier is going to be out basically the same amount of time. And so when they come back, you're delaying the mail. I have complaints in my office from people getting delivery 1 day a week now, sir. That is not according to your oath. That is not according to what the Chapter 1 of 39 says your role is. I want to, in my short period of time, Madam Chair, I was interrupted. I would just like to end this with some of my colleagues have said this is a theater. Why are you here? Well, you're here because the citizens of the United States rely on the Postal Service to deliver. Our seniors, our veterans. One thing is clear. You have been a major supporter of the president, as documented. I don't resent you for that. You have that right. But when you are getting messages daily in tweets that the Postal Service says, we don't make a deal, they don't get the money. The money means that you won't have universal mail-in. I want you to know that you have an oath of office.
Okay, the gentlewoman's time
and I
has expired.
expect for you and the American people expect for you to uphold it. Thank you, Madam
Thank you.
Chair.
And ma'am, I will live up to that oath. And if I can expand on your question with regard to the expedited process, that would not result in 1 day a week mail across in any area. We do have some employee availability issues in some of the hot spots across the nation where we have, as you would know, we could have 700 routes and only 500 carriers, and it's forcing.
Well, crying out loud, why would you implement that?
I didn't implement anything to affect that. I did not implement anything to affect that. That would not, the expedited.
But you're adding fuel to the fire, and that's the point.
I'm trying to, I'm committed to 6-day delivery. I am committed to growing the Postal Service. I have ideas for new business opportunities for the Postal Service, and I'm trying to, in the code, it also says we must be self-sustaining, and we're not, and that's what I'm trying to do. Thank you, though, and congrats again.
Can you tell me how many people voted by mail in the last presidential election?
No, I cannot.
Mr. DeJoy, thank you for being with us today. What is the cost of a first-class postage stamp?
55 cents.
Just wanted to check. What about to mail a postcard?
I don't know, ma'am.
You don't know the cost to mail a postcard?
I don't.
What if I want to mail you said 55 cents for a first class stamp, but what if it's like one of those greeting cards that's a square envelope? Then what is the postage?
I'll submit that I know very little about a postage stamp.
Hey, what is the weight limit? You are more in the shipping logistics business. What's the weight limit for priority mail?
70 pounds.
And what is the starting rate for U.S. Post Office, USPS priority mail?
The starting rate for what?
USPS priority mail.
Starting weight, 14 ounces.
You know, the rate, the price.
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you know about, within 1 million or so, can you tell me how many people voted by mail in the last presidential election?
No, I cannot.
To the nearest 10 million? Is that a no, Mr. DeJoy?
I would be guessing, and I don't want to guess.
Okay, so Mr. DeJoy, I'm concerned. I'm glad you know the price of a stamp, but I'm concerned about your understanding of this agency. And I'm particularly concerned about it because you started taking very decisive action when you became Postmaster General. You started directing the unplugging and destroying of machines, changing of employee procedures, and locking of collection boxes. As a professor, I've always told my students that one of the most important rules in life is to read the instructions. Did you actually read and independently analyze the major overhaul plans before you ordered them to take effect?
Again, I will repeat that I did not order major overhaul plans. The items you identify were not directed by me. I did, and we don't need much analysis to run your trucks to a schedule.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Joy, could you please tell me who did order these changes if you as Postmaster General did not? Because these changes have resulted in, and you have said yourself in this hearing.
The Postal Service has been around for 250 years. There are plans. There are many, many executives, almost 30,000 executives within the organization. And there are plans that existed prior to my arrival that were implemented.
Mr. DeJoy, if you did not order these actions to be taken, please tell the committee the name of who did.
I do not know.
Mr. DeJoy, did you analyze these plans before they went into effect? You as Postmaster General supervise whomever did apparently.
As I've stated numerous times, the plans were in effect and being implemented before I arrived.
But Mr. DeJoy, do you take responsibility for these changes?
I take responsibility from the day I sat in a seat for any service deterioration that has occurred. You're asking about operational changes that go on throughout the whole organization around the country.
Mr. DeJoy, I'm reclaiming my time, sir. Mr. DeJoy, will you commit to reversing these changes?
No.
Mr. DeJoy, will you commit to, if the independent, I want to switch to conflicts of interest quickly. Will you commit that if the Inspector General finds that you committed misconduct with regard to your financial interests in any other company, such as XPO Logistics or Amazon, will you commit, if the Inspector General finds that you committed misconduct, will you commit to then resigning?
I don't believe they will find misconduct, but I don't see why I would commit here right now to resigning for any reason.
Well, you don't think there's any reason that you should ever resign?
No reason that I've heard here today.
Okay, Mr. DeJoy, do you today, because this has been, you've gone back and forth a bit, I want to ask one final question. Do you own any financial interest, whether options or stocks, covered calls, bought or sold, do you own today any financial interest in Amazon?
I do not.